Shockwaves hit across the nation as the Supreme Court has just issued an 8-1 decision that fundamentally changes gun laws in the United States, and this ruling directly affects millions of Americans right now. Imagine waking up and realizing that the rights you've always assumed are fixed have just been updated overnight. This is exactly what has happened. The Supreme Court has shifted the legal landscape in a way that impacts every gun owner, potential gun owner, and anyone interested in the Second Amendment. The sheer scale of this decision cannot be overstated. It is historic, groundbreaking, and, for some, life-changing. The ruling is almost unanimous, with 8 justices agreeing that previous restrictions on firearm ownership overstepped constitutional boundaries. Only one justice dissented, highlighting the tension between personal freedom and public safety. Yet the near-unanimous majority sends a clear message. The interpretation of the Second Amendment is evolving, and your rights as a citizen are officially updated. For legal experts, lawmakers, and gun owners alike, this decision is a seismic shift. It is redefining how federal, state, and local authorities regulate firearms, and it has opened the door for further challenges to restrictive laws across the country. This decision stems from a high-profile case challenging restrictive state laws that imposed limits on ownership, banned certain firearms, and mandated complex registration processes. The Supreme Court ruled that these restrictions violated constitutional protections, confirming that the right to bear arms is far more robust than some lawmakers had assumed. Gun owners who were previously uncertain about what was legal can now feel a renewed sense of clarity and empowerment, knowing that their constitutional rights have been reinforced at the highest judicial level. One of the most significant aspects of this decision relates to concealed carry and interstate transport of firearms. Previously inconsistent laws between states created confusion and potential legal pitfalls for gun owners traveling across state lines. With this ruling, there is now a clearer legal framework that protects citizens' rights to carry and transport firearms while still maintaining reasonable safety regulations. This clarity reduces the risk of inadvertent legal violations and ensures that the Constitution is applied consistently nationwide. However, this ruling is not a blanket permission to carry firearms without responsibility. The court explicitly stated that reasonable restrictions are still permissible, especially those aimed at ensuring public safety. Background checks, mandatory safety training, and prohibitions on ownership for individuals with criminal backgrounds or severe mental health concerns remain valid and enforceable. This careful balance between individual rights and public protection is central to the Supreme Court's reasoning, and it ensures that constitutional protections are strengthened without undermining safety concerns. Gun rights advocacy groups have hailed the ruling as historic, claiming that it restores constitutional freedoms that had been gradually eroded over decades. At the same time, gun control advocates warn that expanding rights could complicate efforts to reduce gun violence, particularly in states with high crime rates. This ruling is more than just a legal precedent. It is a catalyst for a national conversation about the balance between liberty and safety, personal freedom, and public responsibility. For ordinary citizens, the implications are immediate and tangible. Legal gun owners now have reinforced protections for their rights, including the ability to possess, carry, and transport firearms in accordance with the updated constitutional interpretation. States that previously enforced restrictive measures may now be pressured to amend or repeal laws that conflict with this ruling. Individuals considering gun ownership can now do so with greater clarity about what is permissible, and those currently navigating complex legal restrictions can expect increased protection under the law. The timing of this ruling is also politically significant. It will influence public discourse, policy debates, and election campaigns, becoming a key issue in the national dialogue about constitutional rights and public safety. Advocates on both sides of the issue will mobilize to promote their perspective, using the Supreme Court decision as a benchmark for legislative proposals and political platforms. This ruling does not exist in isolation. It will shape public opinion, policy initiatives, and legal challenges for years to come. The practical impact of this ruling is already being observed. Gun stores across the country report a surge in inquiries, purchases, and questions from customers eager to understand how their rights have changed. Attorneys are fielding calls from clients seeking clarification on ongoing cases that may be affected. Even institutions like schools, workplaces, and public venues are reviewing their safety protocols in light of a decision that shifts the boundaries of legal firearm possession. The ripple effects are widespread, touching nearly every corner of American society in some way. The Supreme Court's decision also reinforces the vital role of judicial interpretation in shaping American life. Constitutional rights are not static. They are living, evolving, and subject to reinterpretation as society changes. This ruling highlights the power of the judiciary to clarify rights, protect liberties, and resolve conflicts between state regulations and federal constitutional guarantees. For citizens, it serves as a stark reminder that understanding legal developments is crucial, as shifts at the highest judicial level can have profound real-world consequences. The ruling's long-term implications are already becoming clear. State-level bans on certain firearms may face legal challenges, and courts across the country will reference this decision when adjudicating similar cases. This creates a domino effect. One Supreme Court ruling can reshape laws, enforcement practices, and public perception nationwide. Advocates for gun rights are likely to leverage this precedent to press for expanded freedoms, while policymakers may need to rethink proposed legislation in light of the updated legal framework. For individuals, understanding these changes is essential. Legal gun owners must familiarize themselves with the clarified rights, ensuring that they remain compliant while fully benefiting from the protections affirmed by the Supreme Court. New buyers should also take note, as the ruling establishes clearer guidelines about permissible firearms, ownership conditions, and carry regulations. This knowledge empowers citizens to exercise their rights responsibly while avoiding legal pitfalls. Beyond legality, the ruling carries significant cultural weight. Firearms have long been a contentious topic in American society, with debates about safety, liberty, and morality intertwined with legal interpretations. This Supreme Court decision shapes that narrative, reinforcing the idea that constitutional rights are protected even as public safety considerations are addressed. It frames the ongoing discussion in terms of legality and civic responsibility rather than mere opinion or ideology. The 8-1 ruling is not only historic in legal terms, but also transformative in practical effect. Citizens, institutions, and lawmakers alike must now adapt to a legal environment that has been fundamentally altered. The Supreme Court has provided a framework that strengthens constitutional protections, clarifies ambiguous laws, and sets a precedent for future cases. This is a turning point, one that will define the rights of Americans and the boundaries of government regulation for years, if not decades, to come. In the coming months, expect widespread analysis, debate, and commentary. Every paragraph of the court's opinion will be dissected, quoted, and examined for its potential implications. States with previously restrictive firearm laws will face pressure to align their statutes with the Supreme Court's interpretation. Attorneys will advise clients based on these changes, and ordinary citizens will adjust their behavior, purchases, and practices accordingly. This decision is not just theoretical. It has immediate, tangible, and profound consequences for everyday life. Ultimately, this Supreme Court ruling underscores the dynamic nature of constitutional rights. The 8-1 vote signals that the right to bear arms is not only affirmed, but clarified and strengthened. Americans now have a clearer understanding of the scope of their freedoms and the limitations that remain in place to protect public safety. Whether you are a gun owner, a policymaker, or a concerned citizen, grasping the full scope of this ruling is essential. It marks a legal turning point that redefines the Second Amendment, reinforces individual liberties, and shapes the national conversation about firearms for the foreseeable future. The shock of this decision will continue to reverberate across legal circles, political arenas, and communities nationwide. For gun owners, the ruling is a major victory that strengthens protections and provides clarity. For lawmakers, it serves as a guidepost for evaluating the constitutionality of proposed restrictions. For society at large, it is a reminder that constitutional rights are living, evolving, and subject to interpretation by the highest court in the land. This ruling is more than news. It is a historic moment that will define American legal and cultural landscapes for years to come. This is the Supreme Court shock that gun owners have been waiting for. The 8-1 decision has not only updated your rights, it has rewritten the legal playbook for firearms in America. Understanding this ruling, knowing how it affects your life, and preparing to navigate the new legal reality is now essential. The landscape has changed forever, and every American citizen must take note. This is history in the making, a legal revolution that will impact the lives of millions, reaffirming the constitutional protections at the core of American freedom.